Suvi Linden, former Minister of Communications of Finland, has joined us. Thank you for joining us for the interview.
Thank you for inviting.
This is your first time in Armenia, but you have already been here for 3 days. I'm sure that during your discussions and meetings you have certain understanding of how the tech industry is in Armenia, but I want to start our interview with asking you the Finnish example. How did the growth and development of tech industry happen in Finland? How did the country respond to certain challenges during different times and situations?
So I would like to start telling that Finland is a little bit bigger country than Armenia. We have 5.5 million people now. And after the Second World War, where we lost, we were very poor and very agricultural country, not developed country. And we paid our war debts to Soviet Union, and that was the beginning of industrialization for us because we were making ships and trains and stuff like that. And then I think that one very critical point was in the 1970s when we started this so-called NMT project, Nordic Mobile NMT telecommunication project, and innovated or created a first mobile phone ever. It was like 5 kilos, big, heavy. You put it in the back trunk of the car. But it started there when we realized that, okay, the mobile phones might be the future, and the wireless technology itself is very important. So we put money on research, and Nokia started to I remember it was very, very small in the 1990s, but then it was with the right kind of knowledge and research, Nokia became bigger and bigger. And actually first GSM phone call was made from Finland. So we really had the right ingredients in our soup. And so we have, the government has made a decision a long time ago that they really want to put more money on research, and then the universities that are very autonomous, they decided that they want to do research on wireless technology, high technology, and this way we have knowledge to be able to support the mobile industry. But then actually Nokia became too big for Finland, so it was a kind of a big threat for us that when you have a company which is so big, one of the biggest in the world, and still it was concentrating on networks and mobile technologies, and then we saw what happened. iPhone came with a touch screen, and Nokia lost its position, and actually the Nokia doesn't make any mobile phones any longer, and it was one of the biggest one in 15 years ago. But now Nokia is concentrating on networks, and I think that it will be big again, but it's on the network side. But thousands of engineers were laid out, and Finland as a country, we were really kind of afraid that what are we going to collapse, that we will be very small again in the mobile technology and ICT. But actually we had a very interesting cooperation with the government, municipalities where Nokia had been strong and where hundreds of engineers were laid out, and Nokia had collected a lot of patents on different things, something to do with the wireless technology, and then these engineers, they started to do their own businesses, and since 2016 we have got 8 unicorns on ICT field or communication technology, or actually high-tech field. The first one was 2016 with a database, MySQL, which is the database sector, and we have 3 unicorns on gaming. That was something new. I don't know. Angry Birds come from Finland. Clash of Clans comes from Finland. So Supercell, Rovio. Then we have the newest unicorn is so-called Volt, which is also the biggest. It was estimated. It was bought by a company and paid $8 billion for that delivery platform they are offering. So it's a platform where I can order food or whatever, and Volt brings home. Very simple, but using, of course, the high tech and communication technology. So I think that what happened to Nokia was, at the end, it was the blessing for Finland as a country, because now our technology knowledge is much wider. We have many different kind of companies, not only the Nokia. We have so many, and also I think that one important thing has been that government has understood that its role is to be an enabler, to first of all to make a good infrastructure for innovations, and for us it was that we really created a good mobile network. And actually Finland is I think it's still only country in the world where we have made a legislation. I made a proposal that access to broadband should be a basic right, same way as the postal services and fixed line, the old kind of telephone. You are so young that you don't even know how the telephones used to be before the mobile phones. So this way we created a good environment for mobile technology. When we had the broadband, every citizen have access, and it's affordable. And then we just saw how the new innovations started to create, because I think that when you give the tools to kids or young people or even older people, even though we still have, and digital divide is a big challenge, that we have a generation that still is doesn't feel comfortable with technology. But of course in 30 years that problem goes away. But in a way, government's role is to enable, not to and play active role at the beginning. And in Finland we have put up different kind of clusters in different fields of high tech. And in these clusters, usually it's a public sector who is the driving force at the beginning, puts some money, helps companies to come to become active players of the cluster, and then actually the one important thing is also that the companies, they understand that working together with their enemies in the business field at the end can provide much more than that kind of situation that you would lose something because you are working in the cluster together with your competitors. So this one, there are many different ways how government can play a role, but remembering that those do the things who know, and the government should enable.
What sounds really interesting to me is the role of government in helping the private companies, because I like it when for a certain time the government has benefits from a private company, but it cannot have rise all the time, and when it has falls, the government also responds to that. And coming to challenges, I'm wondering, since you've been around to this whole growth and development time, what are what would you consider the biggest challenges that were addressed by the government?
Of course, the collaboration is very important, and and this way something good can come out when the public and private sector work together, and the third sector also. But then the government has to be very neutral. There has to be equality between the companies, this way that you can support and be an enabler, but it should be that you have to balance this way that when you see that there is something is like in Finland we try to understand the future. We have the government-owned think tank or future fund whose role is to study what are the mega trends. Is it the circulation economy or hydrogen economy or big data? Nowadays we talk about fair data and all this kind of, and then the government kind of decides that this is where what we want to concentrate on, and then we do research, and then the government can help to put up the platform or the cluster, but you cannot favor someone and then to for some fields say that we are not interested in you, but it starts from the strategy and understanding that now we want to concentrate on this part of the high tech, and the concentrating means that we put money on research and we can support the enabling part for the businesses, and of course the local governments may play a big role because they do the zoning and they give the place a lot to company to build the place, and so the public sector in all levels can support the businesses to grow bigger, but I think the issue is that the challenge is there that if you just support some companies and then the others feel that okay, the government is favoring those. So this kind of neutrality, just remembering that enable, but don't go too far away with that.
Yeah, and you've talked about neutrality and treating everyone equal, but choosing and prioritizing one direction or one field, isn't that a biased behavior?
I think the issue is that you have to base your decisions on something, and when you are a small country, then you just have to find out the areas that you can be strong. You have to differentiate. You cannot, when you are a small country and you have limited resources, you cannot do everything. So you have to kind of, in Finland I think it was almost kind of accident that wireless technology was where we started. But nowadays it's in a way when you make a national strategy and you kind of figure out that do we have the elements or the spices for the soup. If we don't have something, then there is no use to try to be good in that, because then there are much bigger countries who have a lot of money to put on research, and we cannot compete against Japan or USA or something. But as a small country you can be good on something, maybe small area, very focused, and usually it happens that when you get the things going, companies growing, it still nourishes new companies to come in, and it doesn't have to be on that field, but you have to have these unicorns, or you have to have the trust that for the business that in this country there's a good to work. It's a stable country. It's neutral this way that and corruption of course is one issue. But then when you, as a small country, when I have now the Armenia, I think that you have all the ingredients to become very prosperous country, same way as Finland did, from very poor to now we are still not very rich, but we have a country when we rank on different ways. We are very in a good position, and actually for many years we have been ranked the most happiest country in the world, which is sometimes Finns don't understand that how come we can be so happy, but so it's balancing different things.
And we have talked about this whole process, and obviously you were part of it as well. Now, looking back to all these processes and everything you've been through, and obviously now you have much bigger experience in the field, and you have the understanding and knowledge of also the experience of other countries. I want to know, what is that you think that you should have done differently, that it would help a lot or changed something?
I think that, and you were talking about challenges. I think one challenge for government is understand that regulation is needed, but you have to really kind of measure that you don't regulate too much or you regulate too little, because with a good kind of amount of regulation, right amount of regulation, then things will flow up. Unfortunately, in many countries where I have visited, when you are a poor country, you don't have very many things you can tax. And now when we talk about digitalization, the high tech is coming all fields of the life. And usually you have to have some kind of wireless technology, you have to have broadband internet. And in some countries the governments see that, okay, telecommunication is the field we can get the best money out. And then you put a lot of taxes for the components and also the spectrum, and at the end it's the people who pay the bill, because the private companies, they have to put then all that on the prices, and then it's not affordable. So and that can be the biggest obstacle for the country to develop when you don't have the telecommunication networks. People cannot afford to have a mobile phone, or if they have a mobile phone, they cannot afford to use it because it's too expensive. So regulation is something that it's a quite different and hard game to play, but and that's why it's important to have a dialogue with the private sector. But at the end, you always have to remember that it's government role to look the big picture. And what the benefit of the country, and not always the companies like that, but companies always have to have the trust to government that, okay, the government's role is to look the whole entity and also regulate this way that the companies then have a possibility to do business, because if you over-regulate, you kill the cow, milking cow. So I think that's a big challenge for government to find the balance that not to overdo it. And sometimes you make mistakes. You decide that we want to do this. This is our focus. This is our strategy, and it just doesn't work out. And then it's a wisdom for politicians also to see that and then kind of decide that we have to find a way to do find a new strategy, new way of doing and thinking, to be able to say that that was a mistake, or at least it didn't work out. Let's try to find something new.
During your panel discussion in DigiTec Summit, you've said something that really stuck with me for a long time now, and I suppose as an advice to the Minister of Economy of Armenia, Vahan Karopyan, you said that obviously it's important that the government earns from the fields it invests in, but also there are such kind of fields where the outcome, the payoff might happen really late. It might take 10 years after your investment in tech industry pays off. Is this the case with Finland?
Yeah, in a way, but I was responsible for telecommunication 10 years ago, and then that time we started to put effort on networks. Then we made the legislation to the broadband access to be a basic right, and that was something that time, of course, it was seen that maybe is it important? Is it necessary to do, for example, this legislation, broadband to be a basic right? But we thought that it's so important that every Finn has access, because if you live sparsely populated area far away from the cities, you might not have access. And then when the government provides access or accessibility to everyone, then you can start to digitalize e-services. Then you can provide healthcare, you can provide distant education, you can provide all kind of public services. And actually I think that some services are much better now using the broadband than when they were physical services. And it's happening now. It's 10 years in a way that it took quite many years to, first of all, these services to start to grow and to be there. But now some people, I don't know, they even remember that how was the life 10 years ago when we didn't have this and this and this. And for example, in Finland, tax office has been very active with e-services, and it was one of the first one. And today, Finnish people, we don't have to claim taxes. They send a proposal for us, and if it fits with what you know, what you have earned and pay taxes, you don't have to do anything. So everything goes, all the data goes from point A to point B and then point C, and it's transparent, and this way everyone can trust that things go right, and it's very easy for people. So sometimes the benefits for the government also, savings, for example, it might take time, or the outcome of having strategy, national strategy of how do we make the broadband networks covering all the country. It takes 5, it takes 10 years. There might be new politicians that time, but still I think it's a benefit of the country. So, and the challenge for politicians often is that the term is 4 years, 5 years, and then there is elections, and I don't know if I'm not re-elected, what happens, but the wisdom is there that sometimes government have to really try to make the strategies that look to the future, to the now, for example, 2030, 2035. What could be the megatrends and areas that are important that in 10 years' time, and we start to get ready for that.
We've talked about the tech industry, but I think science and education are also such kind of fields where the payoff might happen really late after the investment. And Finland is famous for its educational system. What I want to talk about is the non-formal education, and this concept is starting to develop in Armenia as well. And even during this DigiTec Expo, we have some non-formal educational platforms presented. I'm wondering, have you had the chance to walk around and see, and if yes, what's your opinion on those?
Yes, I was happy to visit there and learn about the Armath project, which is one very unique, I think, and great project, because I understood that it's over 600 schools already in Armenia, and I was amazed to see what these young people, what they have innovated. When you give the tools, when you give the laboratory and whatever is needed there, the kids, and with the right kind of tutoring, it's amazing. There's so much power, and it just shows, I think this project already shows very well that when you have the right kind of environment and knowledge, things start to come up. innovation, and especially these kids when they do already as this young, these kind of things. Think about when they go to, some of them want to go to study engineering or ICT, and then when they get out of the university, they are ready to become entrepreneur or become whatever research or something. But it just shows that the children, they have the talent if you just enable them to use this talent. And I think this project is really unique and something to take back to Finland, because we have some extra curriculum activities in the school also, and of course I know that the governments all over the world wants kids to study math and sciences, and it's sometimes very hard to go with that goal. But I think that the way you have done it, it's also like a play. It's a game to learn to do a robot or some kind of software, or actually helps problem solving. That okay, you are giving idea that something needs to be done, and then they think, innovate, and then they actually do it. It's great.
Thank you very much for the interview. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, and all the best.